Trailer.
Or a trailer too.
I believe so.
Okay, we're good. Work this up to the front.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting of June the 17th. If you would all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bellinger,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Hagan,
Here.
Councilmember Engel,
Here.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Stroman.
Here.
All right, just so everybody knows, the presentation has been moved to our next meeting.
So Mayor, after the agenda was posted, we learned that Sergeant Vieira had a scheduling conflict with scheduling conflict with family,
Okay.
And it'll probably be moved to late August or September.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. We'll look forward to that then. All right, next up is our consent calendar. These items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or member of the public for specific consideration. Is anybody in the audience looking to pull anything from our consent calendar? All right, anybody up here at the council level have any questions or concerns with our consent calendar as presented?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull items 1 and 8.
1 and 8. Anybody else at the council level looking to pull something? All right, I'll take a motion for the balance then.
I'll motion to approve the balance.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Consent item number 1, Councilman Sherman.
Just one quick item on page 10 of 313 on the report that I gave. There's a typo. I noticed it says because freedom is never, and it stops. And the statement that I made was that because freedom is never free. So I would like the word free added into those minutes.
It has already been added on our end.
Thank you.
Good catch.
And item number 8.
Yeah, item number 8 is an increase in user fees going into fiscal 25-26. And I know we've been talking about the financial health of the city, and that's obviously that's our number one goal. However, it's also been previously noted by this council to really take a hard look at the fees for services. And so this particular item raises the fees based off of the Consumer Price Index annual increase, which we're allowed to do. But in my opinion, our residents and our citizens are getting hit with cost increase everywhere. I mean, across the board. So I wanted to throw it out there to this council, at least for the next fiscal year, that we freeze the user fee update based off of CPI, because ultimately this affects our residents directly in the pocketbook. But I wanted a short discussion on that and see how the council felt.
I have concerns of freezing fees. I know everything is going up for everybody involved, but if we freeze them and then a couple years down the road, we realign what they should be, then we're hitting citizens and the users for those services we provide with even a bigger hit as opposed to just a nominal hit every year going down the road is my thought, but it's worth a discussion, I guess. I would be in favor in continuing with the CPI increase as it comes along.
Yeah, I think this is either way, it's a tough pill to swallow. But given where the current budget is, I don't see where we can make too much leeway yet, is my feeling on it. Unfortunately, I think vast majority of times, obviously I would err on the side of the citizens, but I think in this situation, it's a rock and a hard place. And so unfortunately, I think this is one of those times where we have to take your lumps, so to speak, as a citizen, as much as I hate saying that, because it affects me directly as well.
Can I ask a question of the finance director? So if this council were to freeze the CPI rate increase for this year, could it be picked up where the CPI is next year so that there isn't such a big hit going into, I guess that'd be fiscal year 26 and 27, or would we, as the mayor indicated, would we have to make a bigger jump in the next fiscal year to make up the freeze for this year?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yeah, that's a really good question. We could definitely roll it back to the current CPI that we have now, which is the 3.65. That would just be a matter of you letting us know that that's what you want to do. Or we could see what the CPI is next year. It may be the same. I doubt it, but
Right.
you never know. But yeah, we definitely could, and that would just be direction from council at that point.
The way the underlying fee study is established is we can sort of automatically do CPI. So you notice we're not doing a public hearing for this because it's the automatic CPI. If we did not move forward with the CPI this year, we wouldn't automatically be able to do the double CPI. We'd have to go through a public hearing process to approve the increase greater than the natural CPI. But of course, we could do that. I mean, it would be a public hearing, it'd be an update to the underlying fee schedule so that we could do that.
I'm leaning to agree with Councilor Stroman. Based on a lot of the way that the economy is going right now, inflation and the cost to our citizens, I'm trying to help citizens do more things and rent out more facilities and get more, push us forward and moving forward with our community. So I tend to agree that raising that rate right now is probably going to hurt that goal. So I tend to agree with you, at least at this cycle.
That leaves me. I would agree with the comments of the mayor.
All right. So with that, are we looking to move on items 1 and 8 as presented in the consent calendar?
I'll motion to approve the minutes as amended for item number 8, or number 1. I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
So this is just for item 1?
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
As much as I don't think it's a fun topic, I will motion on 8 to pass that, because it's an unfortunate, necessary evil at this point.
A motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2. Next up on the agenda is staff communications for the month of May. Who is going to be going first tonight?
Start over here with
Start with me?
Linda.
Okay. So we do have our budget, as we talked about a little bit.
Well, not the budget. So
Not
do
the
you have
budget.
any items?
Outside of the
just-
budget.
Outside the budget.
Yeah, any items for the council to share this meeting?
We have nothing outside of budget right now.
It does exist.
That is all consuming.
There's something else that does exist.
Could I ask you a quick question, though?
Yeah.
Linda, can you clear up, I had a question asked to me about HR the other day as to how HR is being done, whether it's an internal position or what it is. Could you clear that up?
Certainly, yes. I am the finance director and HR manager.
Okay.
So I am the one that's dealing with all the HR matters that come to my portion of them. Of course, other management staff would be involved with this.
So fair to say you do your finance stuff, and if something comes up, then you address it? Okay, thank you. Making sure.
Who's next?
Sergeant?
Good evening. So, as far as our crime statistics, nothing has really changed. We do still come into staffing issues coming into June now. We just lost Officer Fagoni to Ripon Police Department. His last day was on the 11th. We do have another officer that just cleared, so they are now on the streets as solo, and we still have one in training while still trying to fill one. We've had a series of burglaries in the north part of town during the month of May, but ever since we've done some extra patrols, that has all cleared up. We haven't had any since. And then Officer Palomino has led the department with 12 arrests, and he also had led the department with 44 citations.
I heard a question in the back. It was Officer Fagoni, I believe, who's moving on to Ripon. Okay.
Good evening, Council. A few updates. Phase 2 sewer project, we're nearing the end. All the pipe has been connected and has been tested. Now it's the point of, we're kind of finishing up. We have a little bit of a tree clearance. We're working on the orchard, and then we're going to start putting the road back there. So that's wrapping up quick, which is nice. Sludge removal will begin tomorrow out at the wastewater treatment plant. We're ready for that to get rolling. We'll get the sludge out of there. Industries are hoping 1st of July, mid-July to get rolling and start sending us raw material out there. Quick reminder to all the citizens that are out there listening. As you can see, we've had lots of fires in the areas of late. There's still plenty of areas in town that your weeds are too high in your lots and in your yards. So please, for the safety of the community and your neighbors, get those taken care of as quick as possible. And tomorrow night is our next farmer's market. So hope to see everybody out there. Should be some decent weather for that out there.
Tomorrow night or Wednesday?
Wednesday, thank you.
Just real quick.
I'm
Okay.
on Tuesday right now.
You're on Tuesday
Yeah,
already?
I'm on
Okay, it's
Tuesday.
Monday.
Most everybody else on Monday. Thank you for that clarification, Mayor. That's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome.
I just have a comment for Justin. The crews were dealing with a major water leak on Yosemite over the Memorial Day weekend. Just want to pass along my thanks for them working extra hard to restore that, especially on a holiday weekend when they should actually be with their families. Seems like there's a lot of little water leaks that are popping up here and there throughout the city. Is that normal?
It's normal, but not normal. It's normal for the time of year. They pop up more time in the summertime, but we average 2, 3, 4 leaks a month on average. Some are just easier to repair rather than digging up the road or digging up front lines. We also had one that was actually on 120 that we had to repair last week. But the crew has been absolutely fantastic. The issue we had on Yosemite, the crew was able to do it without calling any outside contractor. The patch itself was a little bit too big. We called around. It seemed expensive to us, so my crew tackled it, and it turned out great. So we're starting to get to the point where we have time. We're getting a lot more done in-house. They're kicking butt out there. And I also, in those situations, want to thank the PD and Sergeant Zambrano is one of the big ones here. Always brings out an old car, parks it and have the lights on. There's no officer there, but there's always a police car at the end of our barricade just for traffic. So it's a good team effort that we've got going in town now.
Yeah, I had to do that double take on Friday morning when you were in the driver's seat of the cop car.
Well, hey, when it's out, I'm gonna take advantage of it.
And I know Justin has shared with me, they do track all water leaks. And so when we bring forward a project that's a water line replacement and, a street overlay, we are tracking that data to know when we have an issue with that water line that needs to be replaced because we've been repairing it too frequently.
Oh, and I saw Jake on Yosemite Saturday before Memorial Day, and he was covered in mud. But he actually was really excited to be down in the hole fixing the water leak. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I love this." So,
It's a lot better than cleaning a toilet.
yeah. So, please pass along
I will, thank
sincere thanks to the team.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And then I do not have any further comments at this time.
All right. Were there any other questions on the reports within our agenda packet that we had for anybody here? If not, we can go ahead and move to the next item. Next up is matters presented from the audience. The public may address the city council on any item that is on the agenda at the time the item is called. The public may also address the city council on any item not on the agenda that is within the subject matter of the city of Escalon. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. You may state your name and address for the record, however, it is not required. Due to state law, action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda, and except for brief responses, the council is prohibited from discussing any item not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. The determination of whether an item is within the subject matter of the city is a discretionary decision made by the mayor. And with that, we open up matters presented from the audience. If there's anybody in here that had anything to speak of that may not be on the agenda, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Gabriela Vargas. I'm at 1010 First Street. As owner of the Escalon residence page with over 5,300 residents, I often get personal messages sent to me of residents wanting me to advocate on their behalf. And it has come to my attention a couple of items that has brought me here tonight. One is the trees in the Countrywood area, specifically on Sophie Lane. There's a little bit of confusion as to where a property ends, whether it be at the beginning of the sidewalk to the property itself or whether it be in the street. The regulation is different for this city in comparison to the state of California. So the trees that are on the sidewalk, there leads some confusion to the homeowners as to whether or not it's their responsibility or the city's. In that particular area, Sophie Lane in particular, we have trees that are causing issues such as the roots lifting the sidewalks and part of the street, the scraping of cars. I understand that the landscaping company takes care of 8 to 10 feet from the ground up. However, there are some taller RVs and whatnot, vehicles that are lifted that are getting scraped by the branches, as well as the suffering from the aphid infestation. If you've been down there, if you live in that area, you will see that there is excreting fluid from the aphids on the ground, on vehicles, on kids' toys. And we need to address these problems, which is usually a coordinated effort between the residents and the municipal authorities. My request would be for complex issues like an aphid infestation that we contact or consult with an arborist as to what we can do to try to help minimize the damage that's being done at the moment, as well as possibly affording money to Public Works to trim the trees in which the landscaping company is not responsible for, or modify their contract to include that they have to trim them at such a clearance that covers taller vehicles and or RVs. My second issue is the feral cats. I am a huge animal lover and supporter. If you have been by my property, you can see that I've worked very diligently and spent thousands of dollars redoing my home all by myself. I have a very beautiful garden in which I donate to the different food ministries in town, which is currently being destroyed by the feral cats that live about 2 doors down across the street from me. I know that the city has a responsibility to ensure public health and safety, and that includes addressing issues related to the feral cats that are impacting our community, such as aggressive behavior, disease transmission, and just overall nuisance. If you look on Escalon residents, you will see some very concerning, in my opinion, comments that I do not censor because I allow people to have freedom of speech on there. But there are people suggesting that we use antifreeze to deal with the problem. There are also people suggesting that we as homeowners have the responsibility to go purchase and or borrow traps to trap them and then send them off to animal control. With my personal life and schedule, I don't have time, nor should I have to control a problem that is located at a particular residents, not just in the street park or whatnot. I know that I hear that we have TNR programs. I'm not sure that that's true. This is just people talking on residents. But I would really like to see if we could address that issue, especially on and around First Street and James. Lastly, if I have enough time here, I was hoping our new chief would be here, but Dan Brennan can do for now. I would like to say, as a resident and kind of vigilante, at least from my portion of Escalon, where I live, I see that we have a lot of new officers, and I think that their presence is great. We feel it in the community. But I, as well as many others, are also feeling the attitude, the chip on the shoulder, as if, you know, I'm an officer of this town. We're residents, and we are part of this community, and we want to know that we're safe and protected. And one of the issues that has come to my attention is specific profiling on First and McHenry area. I myself have witnessed several officers that are new that have pulled over, and I'm talking quite a few, not just a little, in a period of time in which it was someone leaning back in their car, it was someone of color, it was someone with a more, we call it like a Pinto or a beat-up vehicle. I would like to hope that that is not what is happening. I don't know if you offer an incentive for citations, but I think that the whole city, at least in this area, recognizes that there has been an increase of people getting
You can wrap that up.
citations. Lastly, thank you. I would like to say, though, I don't see any addressing of the speeding on First Street, specifically between Pioneer and El Portal, and I would like to see an increase of patrol in that area as well. Thank you.
Council members, Mr. Mayor, staff. First of all, Jalen, thank you for helping me with the questions I had. Appreciate the way you got back to me. Justin, thank you very much for taking care of stuff in town.
Sure.
The reason I'm here, I wanted to know if we have any information on our solar situation in the city of Escalon. Now, we put that system in a couple of years ago, and we paid $5 million for it. My question is, are we efficient? Because if we're not, they're supposed to subsidize the difference. That was a promise they made us when we had the contract with them. So I'd like to know if we can get that information out and see if we can find out what's going on with that. Because I've never heard anybody talk about it. No one said it was great. Nobody said it was bad. So maybe we could get an answer one way or the other. The other thing in terms of the budget, I don't want to discuss the budget, but the format of the budget. I went through the budget, and I don't know, it's not indexed, okay? So when you're going through the budget, you're looking, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Now, do you put it in a index for the council members?
Jenny, would you mind showing the page? There's a little sidebar that you click the small arrow and it opens.
No, I'm
up
talking about a hard copy. I'm referring to a hard copy.
Yeah, so the hard copies, like, I think you guys all have yours.
Yeah.
It's indexed.
Okay, but the one okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Because it's almost crazy to try to find anything.
And there's a copy in the lobby also that's
Okay,
indexed.
good to know. All right, that's good. The other thing is a matter of the print. You know, you need bifocals, maybe trifocals to see the print. The print's about that big. You know, a lot of people in their elder years aren't going to be able to read that very easily. I know it's tough for me, and I wear glasses. So something to consider, because, you know, it's real hard to read that. Other than that, congratulations on the budget. You did a good job. I hope that your projections are accurate. If they are, that's wonderful. If not, that's life.
I kind of hope I underestimated the amount of revenues that we're going to get. That would be great.
That would be great. Usually, we're always the other way around. Yeah.
I will definitely take your comments for the printed document. Otherwise, the PDF, you can make that as big as you want.
Yeah, I can do a PDF because I don't run a computer. A lot of people don't. And that's all I'm just trying to do is get this information out. Because a lot of elderly people ask me all the time, I said, hey, go get a copy. And they get the copy and they look at it and they say, I can't read that. And I said, yeah, I know. I can't either. But if we could just make that a little more user-friendly, get that solar thing under control. And I appreciate the information on the rental properties. I hope that's going better. What's the other thing? I think that covers it. Thank you.
I don't know if those trees that she's talking about are crepe myrtles, but if they're crepe myrtles, that is a yearly thing. You have to put stuff out there every year because they have all this stuff coming off. So I don't know if those are crepe myrtles, but if they are, that's Just one of their things. If you don't get that in April or May and put that yearly stuff down there, it's a mess. We have them, I know.
Thank you. Anybody else here in the audience that had something to bring up to the group here?
I don't know if I can or not. My name's Vance Nielsen. I live on 412 Noni Avenue in Escalon here. Weeds. Do we still have the senior patrol or something we used to have? You know, that drove in the white cars and do different stuff for the city. You know, starting to make notes of these different areas. I mean, we got lots right in the neighborhoods and stuff that could be, you know, instead of having to, not too many people know, you put a request into the city and, you know, complaint rather. Have them just write it up. You know, then the letter needs to go out. I mean, it just makes the city look bad. Been here for 20 years and it's just getting worse. And that solar, I bet you got taken to the dogs on that one. Solar does not pay for itself.
I can't say anything about the current year, I don't know, but the first year, we got a report at council level, and it did meet expectations of the first year. But other than that, I can't say that I've heard of reports. I'm not sure if we're in year 2 or 3 at this point. What's that?
Who made the report?
Our city staff. Any other questions?
I have a question for Justin.
Sure.
So the trees on Sophie that Ms. Vargas mentioned, are those covered under the Countrywood LLD?
They are. So in the LLD there, the trees that are in between the curb and the sidewalk, there's roughly a 3 to 4 foot landscape strip there that the trees are in. Those are the trees that are covered in the LLD portion that get trimmed from the level of 8 to 10 feet. I'm actually have gotten some bids in to get a full trim in there. We're trying to figure out how we can make that happen in that area. I have had a few phone calls about the aphids, and we in-house are going to do some treatment ourselves these next few weeks. There's some fairly inexpensive things that you can do to get rid of them.
I'm just wondering if the funds from the LLD could cover the trimming of the trees.
I don't believe that was in our prior budgets for them, but it's being included going forward. I think I read somewhere in our budget, something about a tree trimming budget line item or something. They were going to start incorporating that in. All right. No more matters presented from the audience. We'll go ahead and move into administrative matters. Item 11, the adoption of resolution XX24 approving of the fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget.
Turn it over to Ms. Linda.
Just a few times, a few weeks ago, and I think it was well received, but this is our budget proposed for the upcoming year. See if we can get the clicker to work here. So council's objectives to staff were to create a balanced budget, a fiscally responsible budget, and one that meets all the services that we currently have. One of the things that we added this year was to maximize our investment opportunities and to keep the city's budget open and easy to understand has been something that's been going on for a few years. These are our council members. The PDF version of this, you can click on the name and send an email directly to them if you'd like. At least it lets you know what they look like. Budget tool. Our budget is simply that. It's a tool. It's a starting place, a roadmap. I know everyone, the cliche roadmap, but that's really what it is. It gives us a starting point and an ending point, and it helps us to spend and maximize revenues. And that is really what helps us to pay for everything that we possibly can. Now, this year's budget is stripped down, and that's how I was able to budget our revenues and our expenses to match for the general fund. It does take out $515,000, and those are things that are not going to affect current services, but they would certainly affect being able to replace cars and other large dollar items. Anybody have any questions yet? Okay. So it's ambitious, but we do feel that we need to make the cuts in order to stop spending. We simply have to stop spending. So these areas will help us still continue with our current services, but scale back quite a bit. So the combined budget for the year is 34.3 million. 20 million of that is our capital improvements. So that's the largest part of the budget. The general fund is about the 5 million some odd dollars, and we'll look at that here in a second. That's generally where we focus because we have a lot of different programs that are funded out of the general fund, as opposed to all the individual and enterprise type funds where we can really tell just by their name exactly what those dollars are being used on. Our fiscal policies, we kind of summarize this up into a few bullet points. We have our fiscal management, our operational efficiencies, and things like our reserves, our infrastructure expenses, our employee development. It costs quite a lot to train and retain an employee, so we like to try and keep that cost over 10, 15 years and really maximize that. Economic development, attracting new businesses gives us more sales tax. So that's something that would be great. Community development. We like to spend the dollars locally so that Escalon dollars are going to fund Escalon programs. What else did we have? We had set appropriate rates and fees. We talked about that tonight. Making arrangements with other agencies and contracting out services that we can get for the same value of service, but at a much lesser cost. That's always a great way to cut expenses. We have a few fund descriptions. General fund, we talk about a lot. It's about 5.3 million of the budget. The enterprise funds is a little bit larger. That goes for water, sewer, storm, public transit. That's our 7.1. And the rest of the budget is rounded out by our special revenue funds, development impact fees, landscaping and lighting, all the Bella Terra and all the little areas that we have like that, and the debt service funds. But the two major ones that we have the most activity is going to be the general fund and the enterprise funds. We have a quick summary of the different fund types that we have. You can see that we're looking at about 17.7 million in revenues overall. Our expenses for operating are the 13.4. We've got that big 20 million capital improvement budget. And we can look and see what our assets, our cash balance, and our fund balance. We generally talk about fund balance quite a bit, and that will include our assets and cash, things like that. The cash is what we can actually use to pay bills with and to affect some change. The assets are all the hard items that we own. Can't really pay the bills with that. So we have to look at that cash balance amount, the 24.9. Aside from the general funds, 5 million, we have the enterprise funds, and probably our smallest is the lighting and landscaping districts. Sales tax, here we get into the sales tax is about 20% of the general fund revenues. So this particular item we know went down in the transportation area when the Ford dealership moved out. So we can kind of see that last silo there. Went from 88, it's like that was 88,000, down to 56 for sales tax collected. So we had that hit here in the city. You can also see where the state and the county have the same type. Maybe not quite as extreme, but they also had some losses in sales tax revenue. There's a lot on that graph. If you get a chance to look at it, it does give you some really good information. This is our general fund graphic to show that we're balancing our 5.3 in revenues and 5.3 in our expenses. Our biggest expenditure is police, as you would expect, and probably one of the smallest is down to code enforcement at $3,000. But the pie chart shows us where our taxes are and what type of revenues we have. So our taxes are about 75% for total tax. And we can kind of break that out a little bit more with our franchise. Sales tax is about $1 million. So increasing businesses that are paying that sales tax would be helpful. Any questions so far? Okay. General fund. We have our last set of dark blue and light blue shows a 0 because we have balanced that out. You know what the revenues are, you know what our expenses can be at that point. It's just a simple mathematic exercise. This, of course, cut out quite a bit of money out of the budget. So we can see in previous years we had kind of that roller coaster of the golden line there. We don't want to see that. We want to see a nice even spending throughout 3 to 4 years. Our general fund cuts were quite deep in the police department. It was $250,000 that was cut. All the rest of the departments took their share of cuts. A few of the items, like up at top, we have recreation and streets, they actually took in more revenue, so they were able to expend more at that point. Small dollars, thousands. The biggest cuts were in police, and that is going to take away the ability to purchase cars and make any kind of equipment upgrades. Hopefully, when the sales tax measure passes, if it passes, those monies will flow back in and we'll be able to pick up and replace the older vehicles. So this kind of bare bones budget, it balances, but it doesn't leave any room for purchasing at this point for some items that we do need. So I'm looking for money for those areas, and we're going to try to find that in the investment sector. We have a few summaries here. This will show us some historicals from 2020 through our current proposed. And we can see the prior years, we've got some little nasty negative numbers there, but for our proposed, we have a nice 0, which is what we want to see. Our actuals are as of April. We had to pick a cutoff point, so we picked April 30th. So we do still have a few more months of activity that we can show here. Probably not going to change too much for the current year. We have our revenues at 5.3, expenses at 5.3. Enterprise funds, our next largest area.
So Linda,
Oh, sorry.
can you move back a slide?
Sure.
Can you explain the drop in $1.6 million between the actuals of 22-23 and the actuals from 23-24?
Yeah, that is a pretty good drop. One of the things that didn't happen in 22-23 was depreciation. That's about $2 million. In that year, it probably would have been about 1.7 something. So it just wasn't processed. And I couldn't tell you why, other than maybe the people coming in and out of the position that I hold now just didn't do it. So then you move into the current year, where we do have some of that depreciation being taken care of, but you also find where there's a few other things like that that haven't been done. So as we close out the year 22-23, I'm going to be correcting all those things, and then we'll have some good historical numbers to go forward with. So as we move forward with a 5-year budget, we should be able to see that year being corrected, and we'll have the audited version of that from our auditors, hopefully within a few months. But that has also been slower than I would like. So, unfortunate circumstances is the short answer. So enterprise, we can see that the CIP, or the capital improvements budget, and the portions that take up the most of it, it's about half and half sewer to water, a little bit of stormwater and transit system in there too. The square shows us the fund balance, what the budget is for the capital improvements, the revenues, the expenses. So that 34 million in fund balance is mostly assets, things that we own that we're going to depreciate. And as they depreciate, they have less and less value to them. So that 34 million will shrink. Or as we take our cash and buy more assets, that 34 million goes up. Just depends on what we need to do that year. Questions on that one?
Just looping back, Councilmember Stroman, to your comment, I believe you're looking at the actuals year-to-date number for FY 23-24. Those were year-to-date numbers, maybe carried over incorrectly, but it's a year-to-date. That wasn't the full year. That's why you see a significant decrease, both in the revenues and the expenses.
Through enterprise. The enterprise funds, we also have a summary here showing a few historical years. And we are quite different from the mid-year budget, from the proposed. And here again, that comes into play when you over or underestimate revenues or expenses. So that's why we have that large number there. The mid-year budget wasn't met, which is a good thing. Hopefully we won't have as much expenses as is shown. All funds. So this is an explanation of the fund balance and the claim on cash that's available within fund balance. We have assets of 89 million, and we have a fund balance of 74 million. Out of that, 24 million is cash. So you can kind of see as you look at these numbers in a whole, the fund balance is one large number, but within that number, we have the cash portion that we can actually use to pay bills with. Out of that 24.9 million, a very small amount of it is in the bank because the bank isn't paying us any interest for it. And in the other two sectors, we have a state treasury LAIF investment and a large acronym CSJVRMA investment. Yeah, neither one of those are performing as well as I would like them to. And we have looked, staff has looked at improving that by changing those investments to better products. And there have been a few local banks that have been able to give us some really nice proposals, and I think we'll be able to turn that around. This goes into the different types of formatting of funding that we have. The LAIF program itself is through the state, and we can see that in April of 2024, it had a 4.2% interest rate. But we can also see that back in 2021, it had less than 1%. It's very affected by whatever types of funds and products are put into this large account. And it is being run by the state, so we do have the expertise of the state treasury's office helping us out with this money, but it has been underperforming. The next area that we have.
One other question.
Oh, yes.
So given the current financial state of the state, is there ever an opportunity where the state could come in and try to grab some of those local LAIF monies to help balance the budget within the state?
No.
So they
And
can't
I
touch
read
it?
this out pretty good. I mean, I suppose there's some point where they could just, in some really wild scenario, but no, there's laws in place that prohibit them from touching the money, taking the money out, making any kind of transactions or anything on the money. And if we want to call every dollar back, we have that right. So, barring something very, very drastic.
Oh, it's the state, so.
Yeah, I know. I hate to say never, but the way they have this structured, they can't touch it. We have full control over it. It's just not performing very, very well.
Okay.
Chandler Asset Management has the large acronym fund, the CSGV or JVRMA. It is currently being invested into a group of funds that is not performing well. These particular group of funds perform better when the interest rates are low than when the interest rates rise. And for some reason, they have not been able to move these around to an asset that's actually going to earn some money. So this particular investment has lost money over the past fiscal year, and its estimates for performance are very low. So this is a sector of money that I would like to move into something that's going to actually perform, even if it's at a low performance rate, like a 3 or 4%, which would be hard pressed to find something like that right now. So moving this into something very secure, very safe, but that's going to earn some money for the city is my next hope, plan. So with that, what else do we have?
And on that, Celinda, I just want to underline the last 3 slides a little bit. So obviously, prior in the presentation, we looked at cuts north of 500,000. So staff is looking at controlling expenses. Now, there's no sort of ability for us, if anything else were to happen, to not get into services. I mean, this is a bare bones budget. But that's one aspect. That's the expenses side. We also want to look at the revenue side, and Celinda's done a fantastic job of digging into what we currently do with the money we have available to drive sort of passive revenue, passive funds for the city. These are not fantastic slides, as she has shared, meaning, you know, the funds aren't doing what we want. So we are going to start looking into, Celinda's going to start looking into how we can utilize the money we have available now more productively. So working on the expenditure side, cutting, but we also want to work on driving more revenue into the city.
You know, we don't have a slide in here for it, but office staff has been able to cut about 30,000 or so out of the next year's budget just by reducing costs. Different areas, we were able to get a funding source for the very expensive phone bill and drop that down. I think Chief has been able to go through and cut some hard lines for the fire service lines that we had, reducing costs there. We've reduced credit card fees all across the board. Anything I find that I can cut or get rid of, it's gone. And that has, that'll be fruitful next year when we see those operating costs go down. Positions filled by fund. This is a very busy looking slide, but it shows you how every position that we have is generally working, except for the police officers, they're being cut through several different funds. So we'll see police will have 100% for each position there, but you'll see the courtyard, legislative management, street, storm. There's a staff member that's time is being cut through all those different spots in order to cover the jobs that are needed for those particular tasks. So that's kind of a fun slide to look at to see just how many spots we're utilizing with just the one employee. Long-term for the capital improvement projects, we have a summary here that shows the different projects and the dollar amounts that we have set for proposed, and a little bit of information about a few of them. We didn't have a whole lot of space here, but we put the La Mesa Lift Station, McHenry Phase 3, and the micro crack and slurry seal pavement restoration projects. So this gives us a good idea of where that $20 million is slated to be spent. And we have a breakdown of where this goes. So water is looking at about 17.6 million, roads about 13 million, sewer 19, and the general fund at 55. So quite a bit of that. You can see where that's cut out. And then we're almost at the end, our budget timeline. We establish a budget, refine it, present it, and get it approved. And there's varying different cycles in which we can do this. Mid-year proposed that we're in now, because we're going to go forward into the next year with our proposed budget. And we share this with staff in the community, get input, and make any changes or updates that we need to.
We should wait for.
Well, then we'll let us finish the presentation, then we'll open it up for comment.
Okay, so the next thing would be any new goals and priorities that emerge out of this process, this tool that we're using for this year, and council would have the direction for anything that you'd like to see added to this, we would do it. There's our thank you slide. Okay, that's what I have. Is there any questions regarding anything?
We'll open it up to the public first for questions at this point. If you had questions, go ahead and come to the podium and ask your questions.
Is this going to be approved today, this budget?
That is the hope.
Okay,
Adopted today.
I know that there's been an abundance of community members who are not even aware of the budget workshop, and I'm just hoping that we could have a better communication on Escalon residents. You can post things, and those that are with the city can help keep us informed, because we're unaware that that even took place, and I heard the outcome was pretty pitiful, so.
I find the balance of the money that we're collecting for the water from the surface water treatment plant in the budget.
It would be in the water section.
I looked there, what would it be under?
Let me look for you. Probably can't pull it up very quickly, but I can definitely get back to you with an email if I don't find it.
That's fine, I think it's $1 million something. And I just wonder if it's in there, and if it's in there, it's still there, or has it been moved? What's it doing? Where's that money at? Is it gonna be in the enterprise? Obviously, it's gonna be in the enterprise, obviously it's gonna be in water. The question is it coupled into the other funds for investment somewhere, or is it sitting there? What's it doing?
Actual cash, yes, because we can see on that one slide, we have a small amount in the bank, and the rest of it, we try to move it out into an investment so that it'll work for us. Unfortunately, one of the investments that we have is not providing.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah, and that's something, it's unfortunate where we can just fix it. So if there was cash sitting there, yeah, it's not just sitting in the bank with just getting nothing.
You said the city had how many, what's the millions of assets and money they had? 89 million or something?
Yeah, I could go back.
Now, is that the actual cash value of the community itself, the town? Assets included?
That is kind of a loaded question, because cash value is what it was when we purchased it. Some of these assets are old. So
Right.
you'd have book value, and book value would be what you purchased it or installed it, less all your depreciation. So that type of thing, you can say, what's the value of an asset on the book? It might be half of what it was when we first
In
purchased.
terms of infrastructure, that might be accurate, but in terms of property, it's not gonna be accurate. It's gonna be just the opposite.
That type of thing, no.
Right.
Those types of tangible things, like these desks and all that kind of
Understood.
stuff, you know.
They all depreciate out, I get that.
Right.
Okay, so I would like to know that. And while you're looking in there, maybe.
Book value of the
No,
assets?
I would like to know where the money is and how much money there is for the money we've collected for the surface water treatment plant.
Surface water and the treatment plant, because it's two different funds. One is sewer and one is
Surface
surface
treatment plant
water.
I'm referring to as the water plant.
SSGI.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the city has an arrangement with the city of Tracy.
We sell our water to them.
Yeah, where we receive about $100,000 a year from that arrangement. It's been about 9 years, maybe getting close to 10 years now. So we have north of 900,000 set aside for the surface water treatment plant from that arrangement.
With an estimate of $15 million today. With no one notified, or we have no prospect in terms of a financial situation where we could get the loan yet, do we?
We are exploring, city staff and the consultant team are exploring different funding and financing options. We did apply for the CPF grant through Harder's office. I believe we'd find out in July sometime if we were successful for that or not. That was a $2 million grant. So city staff is exploring various
This
options.
isn't time or place, I don't waste your time, but I do want to talk about it sometime when you have time. Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience on the budget? All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment at this point on the budget and bring it back to council. Do we have questions or comments or concerns on our budget that we have in front of us tonight?
I'd just make a general statement, if I could, to Celinda. Excuse me, and then I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I feel like we should really prioritize finding an inflation hedge. You know, I'm assuming you pay close attention to the financial world, right? And you saw the Saudis drop the petrodollar on June 9th. BRICS nations, obviously in October, are planning some sort of a hard asset-backed currency. That money could come back to our shores in theory, creating a hyperinflation or some sort of an inflationary change. So I really would like to see us look into being proactive in that regard.
And that is why fund management for the different investments is so crucial for getting money out of those $24 million that are there, because in times when the rates go up, you have a different type of investment. They're still sound, the city can still invest in it, everything's good on it. And when they drop, there's a different type of investment that you want to get. So we have to have somebody who's able to recognize these things, see the change, and move things around when they need to be moved, rather than just let them sit.
Correct. So that's just that's my 2 cents. And like I said, I don't know what the rest of the board feels like, but if you read the tea leaves, you can see the storm out in the horizon.
I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and everybody else who, obviously, each department took a hard looked at what was previously budgeted, what were our actuals. There was some room to move there where you're always budgeting, say, $1 million, and we're always spending $750 or something. So we took a harder line and got more in line with actuals, I think, across the board with every department. I want to say thank you to everybody for all that work. Revenues, expenses, if we can get those revenues coming in that we projected, hopefully you underestimated, we get a little more. But thank you for your diligent work on getting it where it is today. All the hard work in such a short period of time, hitting the ground running for us.
I have a quick question for either Justin or Jalen, I'm not sure. On the CIP, there's a project listed as South McHenry to Jones. Can I be reminded of what that project entails?
Is that under the sewers at the phase 3 she's speaking of?
Let me look. So it's either.
It's under gas tax on almost the bottom of the page here, South McHenry to Jones.
Is it under sewer or is it under?
No, it's under the gas tax /
Okay, so that is a carryover and it should likely be removed. That was the project that the council de-emphasized at our discussion in March, I believe.
Okay. So that's what I thought. That was the one under discussion that we kind of decided not to go forward with. So we could be off by that 2.3 million on this, correct?
Yes, and if it were council's desire, we could, approve whatever the council's desire is, but you could, in your motion, include the removal of that project and we could get that fixed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I share a few thoughts?
Please.
So it's important to note in the budget workshop, I asked Chief Hargraves, so yeah, we're cutting a big chunk of change out of their budget and you're a first-time chief. How do you feel? And I think his response was telling, and I'm definitely not speaking for him and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but essentially he said that while we're putting equipment purchases and new police vehicle purchases on hold, that he truly believes that this budget is a real budget for the police department, and he was not concerned at all by that big chunk of change taken out. So for the residents, I think it's important to note that while this is lean and mean, the finance director and Jalen have received a commitment from all the different departments that this is the way that we're going to operate. And so without any disruption to the level of service that has been provided within the city for so many years. Second thing I want to point out is that it is June 17th, and we are being presented with a budget to go into effect July 1st. That's very commendable, seeing how we received last year's budget in the fall. So thank you for that. And quite frankly, it's a balanced budget. It's lean, it's mean, we're not just spending money just to spend money. So I want to make it a point that, it's tight and every department is aware that it's tight. But given the financial health of this city, I really appreciate everything that you've done, Celinda, and all of the departments have done to really look across the board at this budget, because it's tight, but I think this is where we needed it to be. So thank you very much for all of your hard work, and kind of want to second what the mayor said, that we appreciate all of the departments, all of the staff looking at this really through a totally different lens, and just appreciate everything that the folks have done.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns? If not,
Yeah, I've got some.
what you got?
First, I just want to express my appreciation to staff for the presentation 2 weeks ago, as well as for the condensed version tonight. That was nice. I just want to express that by presenting a balanced budget, you've set a very high level of expectation, and that all of us will be watching to see how it goes. And I'm excited to see what happens. I have full confidence in you guys, but it is a feat we haven't seen for a while. In government in general, it's roughly unheard of. You guys have shown that you're up for the task so far. So again, I'm excited to see how it comes, and we'll be watching it along the way.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One other thing. So Linda, you did mention in the budget workshop that you're planning on presenting quarterly budget updates to council, correct?
Correct.
Instead of just waiting for the mid-year and the end of the year, we'll be able to track where we are at with the budget on a quarterly basis, correct?
Yes, it's my belief you have to see what you're spending and what you're receiving in order to know what you can do going forward. So getting them anything less than quarterly would probably not help with that.
Thank you.
And I would accept the motion on item 11 if we're at that point.
I would make a motion. Oh,
you have a comment?
did you have?
No, I was
the,
going to make the motion.
Oh, go for it.
Sure. I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number XX24, approving the fiscal year 2024-2025 proposed budget, editing the capital improvement plan to delete the South McHenry to Jones project.
I will second that.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next up is going to be council communications. Before that, I know that going into July, the first Monday of the month is July 1st, and we usually go dark in that. Is there anything that would stop us from going dark this year? Mr. City Manager Jalen, what do we look like on our agenda topics for that idea of doing that again this year?
No, we have been tracking agenda items across June and July, and there's no pressing issues that would need to be.
No deadline,
held in
no
the first
deadlines or
meeting
anything
in
like
July.
that?
Nope.
How does the rest of the council feel about going dark the first meeting in July and meeting on, would the next one be the 15th? The 15th?
Yeah.
Any objection to that idea?
I don't have any objection.
Then let's plan on going dark on July 1st then. All right, council communications, Councilman Walker, what do you got tonight?
Just want to thank staff for coming together on this budget. Thank you, Celinda. And, you know, I know I've said welcome to the team, but now it's, you know, the budget is here, so it's come to fruition. I know you've been working hard on that. And coming up to date is important for us. And again, those quarterly, I look forward to the quarterly presentation so we can keep an eye on that. Thank you so much for bringing us up to a balanced budget and on time. So I know that you guys have been working hard on that. Besides that, sounds like we won't see you before 4th of July. So everybody, have a very fun and safe 4th of July. And, oh, I do want to add, I know that it was mentioned about those overgrown lots. It is important, you know, the 4th of July and those overgrown lots kind of coincide in the safety issues that we have around Escalon. So if you do see those lots, you can report that to the city. There's a form online and it's code enforcement. If you ever see some sort of code being broken, I've always historically gotten some very quick responses when I've reported before I was here, and while I'm here. But while I was just a regular citizen, I have gotten very quick response. You can do that either online and just go to the Escalon Code Enforcement, and you can do it in-house too, just come into the office and they'll have a form. But they do get that pretty quickly, and I use that mostly for those overgrown lots that I see. So everybody have a very safe 4th of July. And attend our farmer's market, and I'll see you in July. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Stroman.
Oh, yeah, I have some items. To kind of piggyback on what Councilor Walker was noting, I'm looking to see if how the rest of the council feels about some increased fireworks patrols and enforcement, given the high grasses that we have. And it seems like every year the amount of aerial fireworks get bigger and bigger and bigger. So how does the rest of the council feel about increased fireworks patrols?
I think in general, the police force is usually, that's one of the busier nights. They do staff it pretty well, I think more than normal. Maybe a coordinated effort with communicating with our fire department folks and maybe see what they can do for us. Get the chiefs to talk together and see if we can get a little bit more out there maybe. I don't know. I think more patrol is good. The aerials are getting crazy out there, I'd agree.
And
Public Works cars will be out there too.
they actually started last night. I heard some aerials going off last night. So I would just hate for some aerials to light a home on fire. and we need to do everything that we can to try to protect our homes. It just takes one firework. Next thing is I was recently approached by a member of the San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office asking if we might be interested in applying for the asset forfeiture grant. So what happens is when there is a bust, they take these monies and share them into a pot. And it's specifically devoted towards helping keep kids off the streets, away from gangs, et cetera, et cetera. So with council's direction, all we have to do is write a letter to state how we intend to use these funds directed for kids in the community up to $25,000. So I have some thoughts on how we can apply for this grant, but I wanted to see if I could get council consensus to bring it back and we can have an open discussion about how the rest of the council feels that some of these funds can be used to benefit the youth of Escalon.
So are you saying it's a grant, it's an open grant that you would apply for? If we got the grant, we can use it then for some
Right, so I'll give you an example.
internal issue? Okay.
So it's up to $25,000. I think the council is aware that Jalen and myself and Chief Hardgraves met with the director of the Healthy Room Project, which goes into low-income housing and completely redoes the bedroom of a lower disadvantaged child. We could budget money towards that, and there's no expiration date, there's no end date. All we would have to do is write a letter to the district attorney's office and spell out, okay, this is what we intend to do with the $25,000, and we're awarded a grant. And so I was thinking that we could talk to the youth center, we could talk to the school district on some of their after-school programs. It's completely wide open, but it's important to get consensus and what other council members' thoughts on what this $25,000 would be used for.
So in the process of writing the grant, we have to tell them what we intend to do with it to ask for the money, or is it, okay,
Correct.
just so I understand the
So you're
process
asking
there.
us to bring it to the council and kind of discuss it? Is that what you're
Correct.
asking? I don't have a problem with that.
Yep. It's a grant of up to $25,000 specifically for kids.
It seems like a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. The reiterating the about the importance of the balanced budget was very important, so thank you, Celinda. Jalen, at the previous meetings, it's been discussed about the potential for a town hall for the future Murphy Ranch project. Do we have a status update of that?
We continue to work with the applicant on scheduling that and when their preference is to schedule that meeting. We continue to make progress, I guess, towards that. But they have a difference of opinion on when the meeting should be held, when in the process the meeting should be held, for sure.
I think it's important to get especially the folks at Bellaterra, their voice to be heard. So whatever we can do to help make sure their thoughts and concerns on the Murphy Ranch project, it's important to get that out there. Recently, it's been brought to council's attention that the senior lunch program put on by Karen Corey has lost 1 day of funding. So now instead of the senior lunch program being on Tuesdays and Thursdays, now that's being cut to Tuesdays. And so I would just, quite frankly, that is the only meal that some of our senior communities get twice a week. And I know that from experience because over the holidays, I had a resident reach out to me and she said, I haven't eaten in a week because I have been waiting I need to get in touch with Karen Corey. And so while we just passed the budget, and yes, it's lean and mean, I would really request staff to please look for funding ideas that we might be able to help the senior lunch program. Because cutting that down to one day a week could really affect, well, it will really affect the quality of life of some of our seniors. Similar to what the mayor mentioned, it's been discussed briefly between Jalen and Chief Mello, similar to the 2x2 meeting that we have with the school district. The fire department is looking at the potential of having a 2x2 meeting with their board and their chief as well. In the time that I've been on the 2x2 committee for the school district, I feel like it's opened a lot of doors, opened a lot of communication. And so I wanted to see what the rest of the council felt about possibly forming a 2x2 committee with the local fire department.
I think we were kind of moving that direction, but I want to say we typically set those like after election stuff, don't we? Or is that something you're planning on earlier?
I don't, timing, I'm not sure if there's a timing requirement or thought. I think if council directed us through this discussion here, we could start the process of talking with the fire district to see if they would be interested. And then we can work on timing, approach, when the meetings are, all of that, and bring that back to the council for your approval.
What kind of frequency we need, monthly, quarterly, whatever we might need, what is appropriate for the situation.
Yeah, if council directed us to do that, we'd start those discussions with the fire district, and then we'd bring back a recommendation to the council for your.
I mean, I definitely think having a 2x2 is the right answer. I would want to make sure we communicated with them and then did it in an appropriate way. As far as, picking who decide, who's on that, and like we have done with the previous, boards. I don't know, how do you feel?
I think it's a good idea, and more communication within the departments, within the community is a good thing.
So do we have consensus from the council to direct Jalen to reach out to the fire department and start putting the formation together?
I believe we do.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Three more things real quick. Jalen, we noted that when John Ando gave his report for transportation within the city to help the seniors attend the senior programs, whether that's the senior lunch program, the lunch and learn put on by Escalon Strong, the Fun Bunch, food distribution programs. John was looking into that. Do you have any update on that for us?
Yeah, and John's still on, but I can field this one. Right now, city provides sort of two services. One, a fixed route service that goes into Modesto and accesses destinations like the hospital and shopping locations, and then a dial-a-ride location, or a dial-a-ride service where if someone calls, there will be a pickup and a trip to that destination. One of the things that we are just exploring, instead of the dial-a-ride system, would be more of a trolley system, where there's kind of a continual path through town to hit the various locations within town. This is just exploratory at this point, but we're looking for a vehicle to kind of beta test it to see if it would be a workable solution.
Right. And last but certainly not least, since we're not meeting on the 1st, I just want to tell everybody happy 4th of July. Stay safe. please support our local chamber. Come to the farmers market this week. Because it's the little events like the farmers market and the 4th of July and the flags on Main Street that truly make Escalon what it is. And so stay safe, enjoy the holiday, and we'll see you back here on the 15th.
Thank you, Councilman Stroman. Councilman Engel.
Yes. Where can folks find a copy of the budget on our city website?
So right now, it's just part of the agenda packet. Now that it's been approved, we'll be able to upload that to the website under the finance department.
Under the finance department. So when I did a search earlier under budgets and stuff, I didn't see anything, previously, all the way back to like 2018 or 2019. So was I just looking in the wrong area? So if I'm navigating it just real quick, we can do that live. I'll just take a moment. I'm here on the our homepage. And where would I go?
We'll demonstrate.
See if I can remember.
Our internet works.
Internet's not having fun today.
On vacation already?
Our internet doesn't seem to be working for you.
So I'm on our homepage on the tablet here on the city's Wi-Fi. So it is something. Okay.
And the departments,
Okay. One second. Government and then departments.
city finances.
That path seems very long.
It does. No government.
Or just Google City of Escalon budget and it'll pop up.
Yeah, I went to our search bar on our homepage and put in budget, and it didn't return anything recent.
There's other reports there.
2023, 24 is on there, the PDF.
Yeah, so we keep these folders, so we have like past ones and current ones. So this is like the 2023, 2024 adopted. We generally get that up as soon as it gets adopted, so.
I appreciate that you knew how to get there, but I wouldn't have thought as a layman to do that. I would have done what I did, which was put budget.
Which I
the
searched
search
for,
bar?
I searched for it on my phone and it was able to pull up the page.
Okay. So yeah, when you go to our homepage, the landing page, and you put in budget under the search bar,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you get.
So it pops up a random adopted budget, but it does pop up budgets and other reports.
Okay, so that's what it would be, but the updated, it showed 2018, so I didn't even think to look in a file dated that.
That's when like the official page was updated, like,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. But that'll also be then included it's in this agenda, right, in the
Yeah,
format that we have it?
it's currently in this agenda as proposed, so Linda will have to like basically rename everything to show adopted.
So like a copy of like our budget with an index, will that be accessible in that budget and other reports?
So it won't have that fancy front page like that, but it'll have, like, I'll go into the PDF and I'll tab those separate things, just like we
tabs
do
in
on a
PDF.
normal PDF, yeah.
Okay, very good.
And actually, just an FYI for council, inside of your budget binder, I already printed your approved cover sheet, so you can slip that in the front, since we didn't make any major changes. You can just use that as your budget binder.
Okay, very good. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Vance brought up a good thing to, make sure that we go around and let people know that their weeds are getting out of control when we can. Obviously, I know you have a small staff, so it's hard to, do a lot, but if there's a way to do that, or, You know, even find someone that might volunteer to go around and kind of, like I said, write them down, and then we can send them letters to, you know, clean it up, because, you know, a good example of that's that old the smoke shop. As you come around the corner, you know, there's quite a few weeds there. I know they just recently just sold that place, so obviously that probably plays some role in it, but, so if we can look into that, I think it's a good idea. As far as, you know, the election stuff coming up, and hopefully we will see the people that are in the election, you know, keep it classy. Last election cycle was embarrassing to watch, so I hope that we can have a better approach to that. As far as staff, hey, you're doing a great job. I know it's a tough thing to make cuts, but you're doing the right thing there. You know, trying to find your needs and holding off on your wants sometimes is the right move. So I do appreciate you putting your head in that mindset, and you know, everyone else. Good job. You know, Jalen, you're running a good crew here. I'm real happy personally with everyone that I see on our staff. They're all doing a good job running, you know, hitting the ground running. So thank you for that. One last thing I wanted to go ahead and add was, I think, I know I mentioned it earlier to Slinda, but if you're, I don't know even if anyone's paying attention out there, but if there are people actually watching, please go and read about the Saudi petrodollar and the BRICS change, okay? It will impact you personally, okay? So please get to know and understand that. Thank you. Have a good, happy 4th of July.
I'd like to pretty much try and keep it short, echo everybody's thoughts here on the staff and the budget. Great work by everybody. Please come down to the farmers market, support our local vendors, our farmers, and the small businesses that do participate in that event for the chamber. It's a well-run little event that we do once a month. Please continue to do so. 4th of July is coming up. When you're buying your fireworks, please buy locally. They are run by all of our local nonprofits. Please do not buy out of our town if you can. They're all the same vendors, pretty much the same pricing. If you're going to buy them, everybody, please support our local nonprofits that are running those. Those monies go directly back into our community, and it is important to do so. Other than that, everybody stay safe and sane out there for the 4th of July coming up. Enjoy it, and we'll come back on the 15th. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.